Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio's The Incoherent Ramblings of C&E. Christopher and Eric are your hosts, coming to you live from Greensboro, North Carolina, as we do every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Our intro music is provided from the Podshow PodSafe Music Network. Check it out at music.podshow.com. Also, feel free to email your topics for discussion, suggestions, and comments to incoherentramblings@live.com.
Good evening. This is Christopher. It is January the 28th, 2010. Hope you're doing well tonight. Tonight, once again, we are the Incoherent Ramblings of C, sans E. Might have to rename the show to that. Just giving Eric a hard time. Go ahead and take care of some housekeeping real quick. Our dial-in number is 646-716-6928. You can go to Blog Talk Radio / Incoherent Ramblings, and you can find out all many different ways you can contact us. You can listen to our previous shows streaming from Blog Talk Radio, from Facebook, from Twitter, from MySpace. You can friend us at any of those places. In addition to that, you can also go to iTunes, download the show there. From iTunes, you can subscribe to our channel in iTunes, which will automatically download the shows for you as they are posted. You can contact us electronically at any of those places, as well as emailing us at incoherentramblings@live.com. And I would like to say welcome to the show's official UK correspondent, stuck in the 70s. Hope you're doing okay tonight. Let's see here. As I was going to explain, it is, like I said earlier, the Incoherent Ramblings of C tonight. Eric is unable to be with us. Actually, it's a legitimate excuse. I won't give him too much grief about it. His daughter, Megan, has a school function tonight. And he got a note from her teacher, and Megan gets very good grades, but he got a note from the teacher that if a parent was at the school function, that she would allow the student to drop their worst grade of the semester, thereby, I guess, raising their grade point average a little bit overall. So he felt actually obligated to go for his daughter's sake. And then he kind of laughed, and he's like, well, she makes really good grades, so it's not like it's going to make a huge difference. But not only for that, he also wanted to be there for the function. I don't know if it was a play or what. Anyhow, it was something that he, as a parent, felt that he should attend. So obviously, family comes first, and he is there with his daughter tonight. So we will give him a pass. Our official UK correspondent has not been here for a few weeks, but there's no need to apologize. Past several weeks, we've kind of been either not on the air or it's just been me. Obviously, for Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, the show was not on. But we told all of our listeners that we would be on hiatus those 2 nights anyhow. And then, let's see here, since then, since New Year's Eve, we've had 1, 2, 3, tonight will be the 4th show. And if I'm not mistaken, the only one of the previous three, the only one that had both of us was on the 14th, 2 weeks ago. The 7th, the 21st, and now tonight, the 28th, I'm running solo. But Eric is, as our loyal listeners know, he is in between houses, and he's very, very, very close to having his new house where he can move in. He's just right on the verge. Basically, he got the last coat of poly on his hardwoods, I think Wednesday, and you're really supposed to wait 7 full days before you put anything on the floors after that. So he's anxious to do it this weekend, but I advised him to wait a full week. I said, you really, as long as you have a few extra days isn't going to hurt anything as long as this project has been, and might as well go ahead and take the time to do it right. And he agreed. And it looks like we have the possibility of having a little snowstorm this weekend anyhow, so I think he's definitely going to wait. So that's the update on Eric. Hopefully and he will be able to move into his new home next Wednesday. He might start moving some stuff, but the next weekend we hope to get him moved in there, and he will be so relieved and happy to have this move done. It will ease a lot of stress and pressure off him. So that is the update on Eric and his home and why he isn't here tonight. Like I said, I think it's an acceptable reason to not be here because he's actually dealing with his daughter and her school function tonight. So let's see here. Our UK correspondent has been quite busy. They had there in Great Britain had quite a bit of snow, and he works at an auto repair shop. So as you can imagine, he has been busy with, I'm sure, fender benders and some misplaced bumpers and dents and other such car repairs. I pretty much, I think I know what he's talking about. I had some repair work done on my car from something flew up on the highway and hit the hood and caused it to go down to the metal, and I took it in to get it repaired because I didn't want it to rust. And they asked me if I could actually come back a couple weeks later because we had just had an ice storm the previous weekend, and they were backlogged. So I think I can understand how that definitely will affect people in that business. Well, he says people don't know how to drive in the snow over there. Well, I got news for you. People know how to drive in the snow anywhere. Snow falls down and the crazy comes out. People all over the roads and the trees, taking out mailboxes, telephone poles. And it's, for people in your position, it creates a lot of work, which is not a bad thing. Having a steady stream of work is always welcomed, but hopefully not at the expense of people being hurt too bad. So as he said, he's pretty much ready for bed as soon as he gets home in the evening, and I can understand that one. A couple of weeks ago, I worked several days, followed by that 7 p.m. at night till about 4 the next morning, and then had to be back at work again at regular time the next day. I did a couple of those, and I was pretty much wiped out. And sometimes in fact, last night I was sitting there watching television, and I started getting sleepy, and then all of a sudden, not only was I sleepy, it was like I had to be in bed right then. And it was much earlier than I usually go to bed, and I turned the television off, went upstairs, brushed my teeth, and hopped in the bed about an hour and a half earlier than I usually do. And I went right to sleep, and I slept well. So I guess my body was telling me, hey, I need a little rest here. So, oh, goodness gracious. I always say that one of the things that makes it easier when Eric is here is that if I need to yawn or take a sip of water, I have him to cover for me while I'm doing so, and I cover for him as well. So when I'm by myself, you get to hear me yawning and having to take a break to catch my breath, getting a sip of water. But obviously, I know that people understand that kind of a necessity, so I know you guys will cut me some slack on that. We've got quite a few good stories to go with tonight. I was very pleased, to be honest. I found a new website. I actually found it last week. I get a lot of my good news from MSNBC. They have a section called Wonderful Life, where they post good news stories, and that's where I get not all, but a good portion of my good news stories. Well, I just happened upon, and I don't know if this is a new site they've had or if I'm just now finding it, but they have a site called Angels and Heroes, which chronicles heroic feats such as people saving other people from a burning house, people saving people from drowning, dogs saving people from drowning, people saving dogs from getting eaten by alligators, all manner of heroic deeds and what would appear as guardian angels helping people out of what seem to be impossible circumstances. So I'm pleased about this because we like to focus on good news because we all know there's plenty of bad news to focus on. And then we, a lot of times we will rely on bad or strange news to provide us for our humorous part of the show. So I do have quite a few good stories today for our show. I also have a follow-up from a story last week. I will expound upon that more when we get to the story. First, I'm going to go with this story. I thought it was it's about an older lady that passed away, but she lived a long, fulfilling life. But a very interesting thing happened right before her passing. I'm not going to read the whole story because it is quite long. However, this is it comes to us from New Hampshire. Her name was Harriet Richardson Ames. She received a 2-year teaching certificate in 1931, but she remained determined to earn a bachelor's degree. She finally reached that milestone nearly 3 weeks after achieving another milestone, her 100th birthday. On Saturday, the day after receiving her diploma at her bedside, the retired school teacher passed. Pleased that she had accomplished her goal, her daughter said. She had been in the care of hospice. Her daughter says she had what I call a bucket list, and that was the last thing on it. She turned 100 January the 2nd. She earned a 2-year certificate in 1931 at Keene Normal School, now Keene State College. She taught in a 1-room schoolhouse in South Newbury and later spent 20 years as a teaching principal at Memorial School in Pittsfield, where she taught first graders. Through the years, she had taken classes at the University of New Hampshire, Plymouth Teachers College, and Keene State to earn credits for her degree. With her eyesight failing, she stopped after retiring in 1971 and was never sure if she had enough credits. Her wish for a degree became known when a Keene State film professor interviewed her a couple years ago. They were doing on the college's centennial, which the schools celebrated last year. Then it goes on to talk about how she wanted to be the best at what she did and how she knew that she could die happy if she had this degree. Long story short, to wrap it up, she received her college degree, and the very next day she passed away. It's always sad when someone passes away, especially if it's a friend or a loved one, some family member of yours. But when they live a long, fulfilled life, such as this lady did, then there's really not too much to be. It may be sad, but at least it isn't tragic. And the cool thing that I saw about this was what her daughter said. She had a bucket list, and this was the last thing on it. So this lady actually made a list and said, I want to accomplish these things before I die. And she actually accomplished everything on her list, all up to a day before her death was her last accomplishment. So I thought that was a neat feel-good story, even though it did involve her passing away. A neat story of perseverance for sure. And this is not a story, this just kind of is a segue into someone I want to mention that I am close friends with that recently passed away that I would like to honor along in these same veins. I live here, as you guys know, in Greensboro, North Carolina, United States of America, and here in my actual development, there was an elderly black lady named Hilda Nigro. When I moved here in April of 2000, I quickly became familiar with her when I was out. Only maybe a couple days after moving in, she came over and introduced herself, and we just hit it right off from the beginning. When she passed away, she just passed away. I'm going to look at my calendar so I can tell you the exact date. It was December the 22nd, just a few days prior to Christmas. But we quickly became very good friends. And she passed away, she was 85, so that means when I moved here, she was 75, in that area. 74, 75, 76. I'm not sure exactly when her birthday was. I should know that. I have it on file. I just don't have it in front of me now. Nonetheless, Miss Hilda was a remarkable lady of inner beauty and strength that really inspired me. We became friends. When I would be out walking my dog, I would always stop and chat with her. There, the first few years, she was outside every chance she could. If it wasn't raining, and if there was an ounce of sunshine, she would go out to enjoy the sunshine, and I would stop and talk. The longer I lived here, the older she got, the less she came outside, but the more I would go over and visit her and actually spend time with her in her home. She would treat me as if I were a family member, literally. I mean, I felt like family when I was at her house. She always greeted me with a hug, and when I left, I got a hug and a kiss on the cheek. And it's quite, I'm sure it was a sight for people to witness, because I am 6'6", and she was probably about 5'2", 5'3". So over a foot difference in our height, and I'm sure it could be cute and comical to see. She entrusted to me a few things that only people in her family knew, and I entrusted some things with her that only people in my family knew. We developed a very close friendship, and I don't know why I'm saying this. I just feel like sharing it. She was a remarkable person. She lived in Beverly Hills area of Los Angeles. In the 50s, she graduated from law school and she became an attorney. The significance of her being an attorney as a female in the 50s is pretty impressive. Add on top of that a black female is just astounding. And she didn't care what people thought about her. She didn't care any names that were called to her. She was confident in herself and her ability. She went to school. She persevered. She became an attorney and a professor, and very successful. She has beautiful children. She has a daughter that lives in the Netherlands, a daughter that lives here in Virginia, in America, and a daughter that was living in Tokyo until recently when she moved to, I believe, Indonesia, and many grandchildren. She has a granddaughter that is a very successful runway model that is absolutely gorgeous. Anyhow, Miss Hilda Nigro, a beautiful lady, a dear friend of mine, and as I said about this lady in my first story, of course it's sad that she passed, but it wasn't tragic. She had lived a fulfilled life. She had accomplished many things, traveled many places, inspired many people, helped many people, given of herself to help other people, setting an example for anyone willing to see her as an example of just good humanity in action. And I had the privilege of the last 10 years of her life of calling her my friend. And she would always, like I said, give me a hug, give me a kiss, and told me she loved me. And I miss her. I do. So this story kind of reminded me of this lady persevering and making a list and sticking to it. And I just wanted to use that as a segue into honoring my late friend, Miss Hilda Nigro, a beautiful lady that I miss. And I know I can't even begin to miss her like her family did, because it's different when it's a family member. So there is my memorial to her. I am very fortunate to be part of her memorial service later at the end of February, where her family and close friends are going to be, and I feel privileged and honored that I'm going to be a part of that, and I think it's a fitting way to honor her. And I will say this, then I'll move on. And only people that know Miss Hilda personally understand the significance of this, but there was no funeral. She donated her body to Wake Forest Baptist Hospital for scientific research, saying that if there was anything that they could do to learn anything about helping anyone in the future, she wanted that to be done. And that just goes right along with everything Miss Hilda stood for. So my friend Miss Hilda is gone, but not forgotten. So, going to move on here to a young hero, 3 years old. This is really a cool deal here. This comes to us from New Jersey. A 3-year-old New Jersey boy was hailed a hero after his grandmother had a seizure. He called 911. Jaden Boley was at grandmother Patricia Boley's home in Maple Shade because his other grandmother, who was scheduled to watch him, was sick. When the 54-year-old grandma went to get out some puzzles, she had a seizure. The boy found a phone and dialed 911 for help, as his mother taught him to just days before. Burlington County 911 coordinator Monica Gavios said the call was very unusual. Usually when a child that age dials 911, she says, it's an accident. But she said it shows that young children can be taught how to get help in an emergency. Patricia Boley is in a hospital where doctors are trying to diagnose her. So, I mean, we don't know that it could have been fatal, but who knows? The fact that he was cognitive enough to know that his grandmother needed help and smart enough to pick up the phone and call 911, to me, is quite impressive. At the age of 3, I thought that was a very cool story. I'm sure his grandmother and other family members are quite appreciative. Here's a story that I found interesting. Everybody that listens to the show knows that I love dogs. And our show's official mascot is my beautiful pit bull named Bella, who is here beside me right now, chewing on her foot, because I think she has mental issues. I'm not sure. This is a neat story about a dog that got rescued after a 100-mile journey on ice. This comes to us from Warsaw, Poland. I actually, on a side note, got an email a couple weeks back from someone from Poland listening to the show. Thank you. We appreciate that. A dog had a lucky escape when a boat rescued him from an ice floe that had carried him more than 100 miles up a river and out into the Baltic Sea. My crew saw a shape moving in the water and immediately decided to get closer to check if it was a dog or maybe a seal relaxing on the ice. As we got closer to the ice floe, we saw it was a dog struggling not to fall into the water. They managed to scoop the dog off the floe into an inflatable dinghy and wrapped him in a blanket. He didn't even squeal. There was just fear in his eyes. The dog was first seen on the ice floe some 70 miles inland to the south in the Vistula River, but firemen were unable to rescue him. When the Baltica crew found him, he had already drifted 18 miles out to sea. We were in the right place at the right time. Crew members are now trying to find the dog's owner, and Poland is in the grip of a bitterly cold weather with night temperatures in some areas falling as low as negative 31 Fahrenheit. Quite chilly indeed. There's a picture here of the dog. You can tell he's trying his best not to fall into the water. I thought it was a neat story. They were obviously in the right place at the right time. He could have very easily not been found and would definitely have perished. So I thought that was a neat story of rescuing what most people consider man's best friend. I sure know that Bella is one of my best friends indeed. Every time I say her name, she's looking up at me like, what? I'm just chewing on my foot. So there's good news about a dog being saved. Here is a true hero in this story. This is really an excellent story right here. I'm not going to read through the entire thing, but you'll get the gist of it. Mr. Gonzalez, I can't pronounce his first name, so I'm not going to try. Mr. Gonzalez, there was only one reason to do anything other than call 911 when he heard screams from his 15th floor Aventura, Florida apartment. He looked out and saw a car in the water with a child trapped inside and a frantic mother outside. I'm the father of 2 kids. I just felt the pain and the panic of the mother, so I decided to be there and to help. What could have been tragedy, but except for his determination, began in the most mundane manner last Tuesday. Tatiana Columbus, who lived in the same apartment tower overlooking a canal as Gonzalez, was getting her children, 12-year-old Esteban and 4-year-old Mia, into her car. Esteban was already in the front seat when Columbus began strapping her daughter into the child's safety seat in the rear. Her back turned to the front seat. She never saw Esteban slide to the driver's seat and start the car. The vehicle had a manual transmission and had been left in first gear, so when he turned the key, it jumped forward and started. I had no idea what my son was doing at the time. When I realized he was in the driver's seat, it was too late and the car was already in motion. She tried to hold the car back. She ended up spraining her ankle and suffering deep bruises in the process, but it kept rolling and went to the water. Esteban, the 12-year-old son, he was able to get out, and he immediately was trying to get into the back seat to get his sister out, who was breathing air from a pocket trapped in the back of the car. Anyhow, on to the hero. They were trying to get the door open. There was nothing they could do, but Gonzalez was on his way. He is a triathlete with 2 sons, ages 3 years and 4 months. He heard Columbus's initial screams and immediately called 911, but also knew that might not be enough. I thought that this required immediate attention, if we wanted a happy ending. I grabbed my goggles because I knew I was going in the water. I ran down the stairs from the 15th floor and jumped in the water to help. So by the time he got there, he had already ran down three floors, 15 floors of stairs. So he was probably already fairly tired out, but I'm sure the adrenaline was helping him quite a bit. He could see Mia through the already submerged back window of the car. He called for someone to give him a tool. They handed him a hammer, but he found it impossible to swing with enough force underwater to break the glass. He asked for something else, and someone handed him a lawn edger. He's standing on the back hatch of the sinking car. He was able to shatter the window. He dove in through the opening, grabbing Mia out, hauling her out. He handed her to two firefighters who had arrived on the scene and made sure she was uninjured. He gashed his hand during the rescue, later taking 8 stitches to repair the damage. Obviously, the family was very grateful. The mother said, "I would just like to say thank you. I screamed so loud, and I'm happy that he came down, and I'm happy the other person came down to try to open the door." The fortunate part is Gonzalez is usually on the road. He works for American Express, and in fact, later this year, he's scheduled to be transferred to Mexico. He looked at it more as an obligation than heroism. He says, "I think people should try to help as much as possible. I'm glad I was there. I believe I'm an instrument of God. I'm glad I was there to help this have a happy ending for everyone." It was a pretty amazing story. You know, he did the first thing he did was the most important thing. He dialed 911, but then obviously quite qualified, being a triathlete. He springs into action, running down 15 flights of stairs, diving into the water, finding a way to break the window, go in and save this 4-year-old child that was trapped in the back seat of the car. Certainly, very easily could have turned out to be a sad story. Could have turned out to a fatality of this young child. But this guy jumping into action, truly a real-life hero. So to Mr. Gonzalez, I applaud you and your quick thinking and quick actions that most certainly saved this young girl's life. Got another story about a hero. This comes to us from Mississippi, from an 18-year-old high school student. Pretty cool story here. He's a quarterback, and he's also a defensive end. He's actually known as one of Mississippi's Dandy 12, which means he's considered one of the top 12 football players in the entire state of Mississippi for all the high schools, and has already committed to playing for Mississippi State as defensive end. Basically, I'm not going to read the whole story because it is quite long, but he was on a school bus, kind of sleepy, had his earbuds in from his iPhone, listened to some music, had his glasses off when his 16-year-old sister, Kimberly, roused him from his slumber, says, "Caleb, the girl has a gun." The bus was carrying 22 children ranging in age from 5 to 18, and he wasted no time going into action. I immediately woke up, put my glasses on to see what was what, and she was just pointing the gun at different students at the back. Surveillance video from the school bus shows that she had stood up earlier, taken out a cheap chrome-plated .38, slid a clip with 5 rounds in, and started walking up and down the aisles, brandishing the weapon. The only thing they could pick up, the sheriff says from the video that she was very irate and mad at somebody on the bus that she said had been picking on her or messing with her. I don't know what she was doing with the gun, but by the way she was pointing at everybody, if it would have went off even one time, it would have been a very sad day for some family. But Caleb was not about to let that happen. He first opened the emergency door. The bus had had pulled over because she had threatened the bus driver and told to pull over. He opened the emergency door in the back and told the kids to get off the bus. At the same time, he tried to get the girl to focus on him. This is a quote. He says, "I just tried to catch her attention to get the girl to point the gun directly at me and not anyone else." I mean, how amazing is that? This young 18-year-old high school student willingly trying to get her to point the gun at him so that it could not be pointed at anyone else, putting himself and his life at risk to save other people. Amazing act of heroism. And 4 of his sisters were on this bus, so he had a vested interest in saving his family members as well. For several tense minutes, as panicked kids tried to get off the bus, he faced the girl, calmly telling her to either give him the gun or put it down. He told the sheriff that he was aware that he could have been shot, but if the girl was going to pull the trigger, he would rather that she shot him instead of one of his 3 younger sisters or another student. So I apologize, three sisters, not 4. Not just his sisters, but another student. He was putting himself in danger. Finally, she gave him the opportunity, and his instincts as a defensive lineman took over. As she glanced or blinked for half a second, I took a lunge at her. When the girl went down, she dropped the gun. The video shows him getting up, holding the weapon aloft to show the girl was disarmed. With the girl in pursuit, trying to get the gun back, he jumped off the back of the bus. Shows a picture here with him and the county sheriff, and the sheriff praises this young man, saying he absolutely made the right call. If it had not been for what he did on that bus, there would be a lot of sad families today. Goes on to say he's 6'4", 255-pound senior, designated, like I said earlier, as one of the 12 best high school players in the state, and he's already committed to Mississippi State as a defensive player. Not only is he an excellent football player, but he's an honor roll student with a grade point average of over 3.5. The sheriff said that the gun was a cheap weapon with a propensity for accidental firing. It could have been terrible. Thanks to the biggest play of Caleb's life, it wasn't. So to Caleb Yules, quick thinking, stay calm and collective, and very well could have saved one, if not more, lives by his heroic deeds. And I applaud this young man. Not only is he an excellent football player, but he also is an excellent student with good grades, and obviously a quick thinker, and willing to put his own life on the line to save his sisters and other students' lives. So we definitely applaud him here. That's the kind of action that we like to read about, someone who is just like ready to step up and take control of a situation. That's just really, when I read that story earlier today, I was just really, really pleased. I thought it was cool. When I was 18 years old, I don't know if I would have had the wherewithal, honestly, to have thought that quickly and effectively. So, congratulations to him. Here we have another hero story. There was a lot of stories of heroism this week, of people doing what it took to save someone's life. This comes to us from Lake Erie. I think it's Ohio. Oh my goodness. They usually put at the top where it comes from, so I apologize. I have read this story though. Anyhow, Chuck Herndon's wife yelled at him to take out a life jacket, but there wasn't time for that. A plane had gone down in Lake Erie, and there wasn't anyone else around to help. thanks to his quick action, 7-year-old Joel Hutchinson is alive today. I figured I was all right, he told Meredith Vieira during an appearance on the program Wednesday. I'm a good swimmer, and it was only about a mile away. Herndon, an artist and retired college professor, and his wife had been on the beach of Kelly's Island, a local Lake Erie resort east of Toledo, about 80 miles west of Cleveland. So I think it's safe to say they were in Ohio. The couple had watched the lights of an airplane taking off from a small airstrip on the island. Instead of climbing toward the mainland, the lights arced toward the water and disappeared. He didn't hear an explosion, but his instincts told him something was wrong. On board the plane were Jeff Hutchinson, 46, his two sons, Jeremy and Joel. They were heading home on a 90-mile flight after a day on the island. Herndon sent his wife inside his mother's home, where they were visiting, and ran to a small aluminum rowboat. It was about 9:30 p.m., and it was black, but he pushed the boat into the water even though he had neither a life vest nor a flashlight. Guessing about the direction in which to row, he told Vieira he initially rowed in the wrong direction. I got away from the island. It was very quiet. Then I heard a faint cry in the distance, help. I called out, I'm coming, keep screaming. He rowed for nearly 15 minutes toward the voice, which kept calling out every 20 seconds. Occasionally, the voice would go silent for what seemed like forever, and he thought that he was too late, but then it would come back. All of a sudden, his hands were gripping the rail of the boat. To that extent, he saved himself. Herndon was amazed that a 7-year-old boy had been able to stay afloat so long in the chilly waters of the lake after the plane crash. He gathered the boy in the little boat, pulled him close to keep him warm, and set out back to shore. He said, my father's been killed in an airplane crash. My brother's been killed in an airplane crash. They were very bloody, and the plane went down. This amazing story of this guy saving this young man. But if you think about it, this is quite amazing for this young 7-year-old boy. I mean, just consider the conditions real quick. He was in a plane crash, and he physically witnessed in person his father and his brother covered in blood and dead. That would be more. I mean, regardless of your age, that would be difficult to actually withstand. But then on top of that, he's in Lake Erie in the wintertime, cold. How he kept hypothermia from setting in and stayed afloat in time for this person coming that he didn't even know if they were coming or not to save him is quite remarkable when you think about it. As they rowed to the shore, Joel talked some more. The boy asked me if I was a Christian. He said he was a Christian, and that maybe because he was a Christian, I was there for him to save him. I thought that was cute. Once on shore, they put him in the ambulance that arrived in response to his wife's call. He noticed marks on the boy's body where safety belts had been. I asked him how he'd gotten out. He said his lap belt and his shoulder harness had broke. He said the plane had disintegrated, and he was able to swim free. Some 25 years ago, Herndon had been out in the lake with others when they saw a fishing boat improperly anchored. The water came over the stern, and the boat sank. Acting quickly, he motored the stricken craft and was able to save 3 of the 4 people aboard. When Vieira called him a hero, he shrugged it off. He said, everyone in America could be a hero too. I was just ready. I thought, I mean, here's a dude, 25 years ago, there was a boat of people, and he saved 3 of the 4 people. 25 years later, and then looking at the picture, if I had to guess, I would put him in his late 60s, early 70s, rowed about a mile out into the lake and saved this young man's life. Truly a remarkable story of heroism. And definitely to Chuck Herndon of Ohio, I definitely applaud you and your acts of heroism. So that's a lot of good news stories today. I like that. In a world filled with negative stories, and you got personal issues that get you down, work issues, family issues, you name it. And God forbid if you turn on the news and it's 99% negative. It's nice to hear some stories of people making a difference and putting their lives on the line to save other people that are in need. So I mentioned at the beginning of the show that I had a follow-up story from last week that last week I covered, and I indeed said that I would report back any response I got from the company. I won't go into the entire story, but basically, young man that works for PetSmart, his name's Eric Favetta. He worked for PetSmart in Secaucus, New Jersey, was fired. He was asked to do a favor to stay after the store closed and work on getting the store in tip-top shape because Martha Stewart and company were coming the next day to see about a possible deal of marketing products in their store. He lives at home alone. He has a dog. He thought, I don't want to leave the dog at home all night by itself, so he brought the dog with him to work and left the dog in like a kennel-type area and checked on it about every 15 or 20 minutes just to make sure he was okay because he was in a strange area. Worked the entire night doing his manager and his company a favor. A couple weeks later, they found out about it and they fired him for what they called, and it's a direct quote, theft of services. I read this story and I kept reading it and I kept reading it and I kept trying to find something in there that I was missing where he could actually be considered a thief and justify him being fired. And I read the story in its entirety last week. I won't do that again this week. But he is not a thief. And I was very, very upset by this story. I don't know why. It really bothered me. And I sent an email to PetSmart because since they opened the PetSmart store number 412 here in Greensboro, North Carolina, I have been a patron of it and bought my dog's food at it and a few other supplies. But with the exception of a few times when I first got Miss Bella and I was feeding her from a different brand from a different store, and my doctor recommended another brand for her skin issues, I have been shopping at PetSmart ever since. And it's really ever since they've been opened. I sent them an email, and I said, it's not like he was doing the manager, store, and company a favor. Oh, wait, he was. And I go on to say that I've been a loyal customer of the store. And even though this happened in New Jersey, it doesn't directly reflect on the Greensboro store. However, PetSmart spokeswoman Jessica White defended the company's decision. That's where I was really upset. And then I go on to say that I've read the story multiple times, trying to be objective, and the more I read it, the more it upsets me. And then I will read you my direct email here. I said, his actions did not destroy anything, harm anyone, cause a disturbance, or anything else negative. His actions were most definitely not theft. Maybe, just maybe, some legal mumbo-jumbo could have made it sound like theft if the story wasn't told in its entirety. He didn't have another employee stay all night to look after his dog on the clock without charging for that service. That would have been closer to theft. If he was keeping customers' dogs or friends' dogs and pocketing their money, that would have definitely been theft. If he was using if he was using working overnight as an opportunity to load up his car with merchandise, that would be theft. But keeping his dog there with him while he did you a favor instead of leaving his dog at home all night unattended, that is not theft. Someone is not thinking clearly and has little to no common sense. I need for someone to explain to me why I should continue to patronize your company, and please, please don't reply back with some inane dribble trying to explain to me it was theft by babbling some legal or company policy. Maybe you don't care about what I think. We'll find out based on your response, if you respond. I assure your response will be aired on my weekly radio show and given to all my family and friends. Sincerely, Christopher. I didn't know if I would get a response or not, and actually I got a response. I sent that email, and the very next day I got a response. And I'm going to read it in its entirety just like I promised them I would. Dear Christopher, we feel badly this happened and has upset you. We simply messed up. We didn't handle it the way it should have been, the way we should have, and we're very sorry about it. Unfortunately, before we made things right with this associate, the damage was done. We've certainly learned from it. We still think PetSmart is a great place to work, and we're using this experience to make us better. We hope you'll understand. And that comes from PetSmart Customer Care. I mean, what else can I say? They owned up responsibility. Maybe they were just giving me earwash. That's not for me to say. The fact of the matter is they actually took responsibility for their actions. They admitted what they did was wrong. They apologized, and they said that they are using this to hopefully learn from their experience to make them better. I mean, I have to accept that. That was for me, that was a reasonable response, and I still am frustrated that it happened in the first place. This guy didn't do anything wrong. I mean, if he had left this dog at home all day and then all night, and the neighbors would have complained about it, he probably would have gotten in trouble for neglecting his dog. Who knows? I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, he did nothing wrong, and he got fired from what some people actually think maybe was a vendetta by his manager against him. Who knows about that? Nonetheless, there was my story from last week. There was the follow-up. And we actually have some commentary from our UK correspondent. He says, it makes me wonder how many of their employees will think twice before doing them a favor. And I have to agree. This guy had already worked a full shift. He was under no obligation to stay there. The company actually said he was doing them a favor. He was doing them a favor, and he gets fired. I mean, it wasn't unreasonable for him to bring his dog there. Was he supposed to leave it at home? When he was doing them the favor, the least they could do was let him bring his dog there to the store. Really a ridiculous story, but I will give them credit for responding back to me in less than 24 hours. And as I said, accepting fault and apologizing for it and wanting to be better, not to make that mistake again. This comes to us right here. I got to get on. We don't have very much time left. I have truly incoherently rambled on this show. Much better than last week. I apologize for anybody that listened to it live or anybody that downloaded and listened to it after the fact. Last week was horrible. I did a horrible job. This week I feel much more energized and much more on key and on focus. This comes to us from the United Kingdom. This is our UK correspondent. Maybe he'll look into this for us, and sometime over the next couple of weeks, maybe he can provide some commentary on it. Holiday Inn is offering a trial human bed warming service at 3 hotels in Britain this month. This is just really weird to me. If requested, a willing staff member at 2 of the chain's London hotels and one in the northern English city of Manchester will dress in an all-in-one fleece sleeper suit before slipping between the sheets. The new Holiday Inn bed warmer service is a bit like having a giant hot water bottle in your bed. No, it's like having some stranger in your bed. Weird. The bed warmer is equipped with a thermometer to measure the bed's required temperature of 20 degrees Celsius. Holiday Inn said the warmer would be fully dressed and leave the bed before the guest occupied it. They cannot confirm if the warmer would shower first, but said the hair would be covered. Florence Ebis, Holiday Inn spokeswoman, told Reuters that the innovative bed warming method was a response to Britain's recent cold weather and marked the launch of 3,200 new Holiday Inns worldwide. She cannot explain why the beds would not be warmed by hot water bottles or electric blankets, but admitted the human method was quirky. Holiday Inn are promoting the service with the help of sleep expert Chris, I don't want to pronounce his last name, director of Edinburgh Sleep Center, who said the idea could help people sleep. There's plenty of scientific evidence to show that sleep starts at the beginning of the night when body temperatures start to drop. A warm bed, approximately 20 to 24 degrees Celsius, is a good way to start this process, whereas a cold bed could inhibit sleep. I don't know why they just couldn't use an electric blanket or possibly hot water bottles. Stuck in the 70s said he's going to get the family packing straight away. go check this out. And he says he's pretty sure they have central heating in those places, and I agree with that as well. I'm sure they have some heat going on. But it's just kind of an odd, it is, I don't think it's like disturbing. One thing they pointed out, which I thought was unnecessary, that the bed warmer would leave the bed prior to the guest getting in it. I would hope so. I wouldn't want to go get in bed with some stranger that's wearing a fleece suit, like snuggling up in the sheets with them. I don't know. That seems kind of odd to me. Wow. I've got 3 minutes left, and I've got a ton of stories that I'm obviously not going to get to. I did want to tell one about this fat dog who got frozen to the sidewalk. How often do you hear about that? He was morbidly obese. He's a border collie, has lost 40 pounds. The dog weighed 120 pounds when he was found frozen to the sidewalk in December of 2008 in single-digit temperatures. His dense layers of fat probably helped him survive. A court ordered the owner to give him up. He's now, when they first got the adopting family first, he couldn't even walk over a 4-inch high pipe, and when he was able to, he was out of breath and had to rest. He's now lost a lot of weight. He's still fat, but he's lost weight. But I can't imagine a border collie weighing 120 pounds. That's animal cruelty right there. I had one about a lady cooked a rat in a microwave and put it in her food and was trying to sue the restaurant for $500,000. A lab took the rat and determined it had been cooked in the microwave. Guess what? The restaurant doesn't use microwaves. They don't have microwaves there on premises. So the lady was arrested. She put a rat in her own food. And then, real quick, PETA, everybody knows that I have no use for PETA. I am anti-PETA. They want to come take Bella away from me and kill her. Now they want to replace Puck's, I can't pronounce his name, the little groundhog that comes out up in Pennsylvania. They want to replace him with a robot because he's being mistreated. The groundhog official says he refuses and says that the groundhog treated better than most kids are in the state of Pennsylvania. So PETA, I mean, for God's sake, I wish all of you would just leave. Go somewhere else. I'm tired of hearing about you. You're of no use to anybody, and your cause is ridiculous. So there you go. To PETA, I give the week's sheep award. There we go. I got to go. We're out of time. UK correspondent stuck in the 70s, thanks for joining us. Our other people that have joined us and our callers, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
This has been Blog Talk Radio's The Incoherent Ramblings of CNE. Christopher and Eric are your hosts, and we would like to thank you for listening to our show today. Don't forget to tune in for next week's show, live from Greensboro, North Carolina, as we are every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time.